My name is George. I'm 14 and I was born in London.
My name's Sarah. I'm 14 and I was born in London.
I'm Ruari. I'm 14 and I live in St Albans.
Have you participated in other art projects before this one?
Really, this is the first time that I've experienced anything like this, and I was really nervous about being involved.
Yeah, same for me. It was the first time I did something outside of school. When I heard of it, I was just like, I was excited because all the plays I've done so far have been in school, so.
Yeah, it's the exact same story for me. I don't have anything else.
What were your expectations?
I didn't really know what to expect. I was really looking forward to working with Forced Entertainment and performing at the South Bank, but I had no idea what to expect and I didn't know what it was going to turn out, and I'm really pleased that I joined and did it because it surpassed my expectations.
It was my first time, so there wasn't really an expectation. So because I didn't do any plays before, but when I heard of it, I was like, I really want to do this because I knew it would be good for me in the future and for college.
Well, really, it was the first time I'd done anything like Sarah outside of school, and doing anything in a performance of this kind. I was a bit nervous initially because I thought that it was going to be lots and lots of... I didn't really know how it was going to be in terms of rehearsals and practicing, but it was a great way to see how people within that environment work.
Can you tell me about the work? So what is it about? What happens in it?
Well, really, it's linked to adults, and it's about the lies that we're told by adults and the things that they say that influence us as children. And it's about what adults think and how we as children maybe take from that and what we think, and putting the concept of that into a performance.
I think it was very personal because it wasn't like a normal play where you have to put yourself in someone else's shoes and you have to become another character. In the script, my name was Sarah and my name is Sarah, and so everyone didn't have a character. It was just them, and it was based on real life, and it wasn't based on a story that happened before or a non-real life story. And so you could tell that a lot of the things that we were saying in the script were true because of the reactions from the parents and the adults, and how when we said you always leave the door open just to crack when we're asleep, just to make sure we're sleeping. And so it was a good message to the adults on what they do, but they don't realize that we know that they're doing it.
And it's like we're 17 young people representing young people around the world and telling a story and communicating with the adults about what they tell us.
I would like to hear more about the process. How did it develop? What did the adults decide? What did you decide?
So I want to say it was about 50-50 in terms of whose input was whose. The ideas maybe started from the adults, and Hester and we would be able to put our own ideas in as well. And I think between us, Hester would listen to what we had to say and really incorporate that into what we did. And I think, we were all of us were able to have an input and say, what we thought about the script or what we thought about in rehearsals.
In the beginning of the rehearsals, in the auditions, we had a small extract from the script that we were going to use if we got in. And when we started our rehearsals, we were just looking over the script, reading it and seeing what it was like. And later on, we started focusing on remembering the lines and being able to say them in a choral way so that we can all say them at the same time with the deaf people as well in time. And like George said, we were able to put our own stuff in it. So it wasn't a very strict curriculum for us. So we added the languages when we were saying our names and what we promised to do, and we added a lot more stuff.
It was also at the start, just because it's such an ensemble and choral piece, we basically had to get to know each other and become friends with each other before we started actually working on the script. So for the first couple of sessions, we looked at the script, as Sarah said, and just got to know each other by, I don't know, playing name games and stuff like that. And we all created our own sign language names as well. Mine was, it was this. It's to represent a spoon, because my second name is Spooner. And it was a really good process, and I really enjoyed working on it, and I'm really glad to meet all the people that I met.
What do you feel you have learned from participating in this?
Well, really, what I think I've learned I think what we learned was different, so the experience of it was maybe different to the play or different to usual plays, because it wasn't that we were learning about how to act. We weren't learning that. We were coming in and we were projecting something from ourselves, and we were projecting something that was real life, but to an audience. And it was, I think it was kind of a different, doing a live performance like this was different to maybe doing a traditional performance where you're acting, and I think that's what I've been able to take away from this.
Yeah, it's like learning a different style of theatre and performing, and I'd never seen anything like that before or experienced anything like that before, and that's why I'm really glad to have worked with Forced Entertainment, and I really enjoyed learning from this process.
I think the one thing I learned very well was when you do plays in school, you have an age limit. So you have those 5 years, you have your 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And so being in this play, getting to work with 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds is completely different to working with, people the same age as you. And so you kind of understand the skills you have to have and you have to use to be able to communicate and get along with younger kids and even older kids, and being able to do a whole play with the younger kids and understanding what they can do and what they can't do and what we can do and what we can't do. So, yeah.
What do you think that Forced Entertainment learned from you?
I think Forced Entertainment learnt that, well, I'm not sure, but I think that they learnt that young people are sometimes a lot better than older people. I know that a lot of the young people in our play were a lot smarter and a lot more, hard-hitting and hard-working and more focused than most of the 11s I know, and they were like 8. And so I think they learned that, and depending on the people that they get, if they get the good variety of people, then they have, no matter what age limit they are, they will always find hard-working people.
Because it's such a wide age range to work with in an ensemble, especially when, so I was 14 and I still am when I was in the process, but there was lots younger people, so children of, 8 and 9 and 10, and I think maybe Forced Entertainment learnt that even with a group of such wide age ranges and different backgrounds and people, that it can still work together to produce a really good piece of theatre.
Do you think in general that the young people can change the ways that adults act and think? For example, with the climate protest in a moment with Greta Thunberg and...
Absolutely, I completely agree with that, yeah. And I think young people can change adults' opinions in lots of ways. I think sometimes we might be able to think as well in a different way, and in doing that we can persuade adults to try and look at things in a different way as well. It doesn't always necessarily mean that, adults have the hierarchy, that they are, the best at making these decisions. And sometimes I think adults might come across with facts or have ideas because they haven't thought about young people's minds and haven't thought about how we as young people can think about things and influence.
I fully agree with George and believe that a lot of people say nowadays that we are the new generation and we are the ones who will change the world and make the new decisions. And as time goes on, people will get smarter and smarter and smarter, and eventually we'll reach a point where, you know, everyone will be equal, and young people and adults will have the same type of, like, how do you say it, mentality, and understand each other better more than we are now.
Young people can portray or tell people such a strong message, and to adults, especially when it's younger people and children telling you this message of, we know that you lie to us and we know that you do these things and we sometimes appreciate you and sometimes we don't. And especially with the climate change march right now, it's had a massive impact, I think, on the way people view climate change, and getting all those young people together and united against climate change. I really hope something does change.
Do you think that adults and children and young people are different at all, and how, if you think so?
I think different. Because adults kind of have this belief that they have the power to control children and to control things. And they will try to kind of encourage more because they feel that they're more intelligent. Whereas as children, we maybe know who we are already, and we don't feel that, you know, adults necessarily do have the right to have that power. And adults often as well don't feel that they can listen to children in the same way if we have ideas and we want to influence them. And children don't necessarily feel that they can express their ideas to adults because of this.
Yeah, I agree. I think adults, children, and young people have they are different because, well, adults were raised in a different time and they learned different things, and we're learning different things and new things. New things have been happening, and you know, some things that are happening now they weren't happening before, and so adults would have a different perspective to something than children would have. And sometimes, you know, for example, in school, when you know, you have, let's say I got something right and the teacher got something wrong, and I tell the teacher that they were wrong, but they wouldn't believe me because, you know, they think that they're always right because they're the adults. They should know better. They have more experience, and so yeah, I think we are different in some ways. Yeah.
I know.
Something you said a few sentences back. It sounded, if I understand you right, like you think society is developing in a way so that the line between young people and adults will be more erased in the future?
Yes, because, well, as we go on, children are becoming smarter and they're learning all these new, like they're making all these new theories, and you know, there's more children going to prestigious colleges and learning maths, science, and one day they could, you know, discover a theory about the world and the earth and all that, and yeah.
I also think that maybe hopefully as we get into the future, that the voting age in Britain is lowered to a lower age. So for instance, maybe 16 or 14, because at the moment it's 18, but that means that a lot of young people, especially in the Brexit vote, had ideas and viewpoints, but they didn't get a chance to vote or say their voice because a lot of the people voting are older, and I think you can join the army at 16, so I think you should be able to vote because it's
I agree with Ruari. I think people always say how, you know, young people are immature, they won't know who to vote for and who's right and who, you know, is better for the future. But if you think about it, if a young person is immature, then why would they want to vote? Because they wouldn't understand the context, and they wouldn't, you know, if for example me, I'm not, like, sincerely, I don't know much about Brexit, and if I had the right to vote, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't know who to vote for, and the context behind everything, and the parliaments and everything. So yeah.
I'm thinking about the effect of youth dancing on stage compared to if adult performers would say the same thing.
Yeah, so I think maybe it would be different if it was adults performing that Night Follows Day script compared to children performing it, because it wouldn't have the same message or make a lot of sense, because this whole play and this whole performance is about young people and young people giving a message, and that message would be taken away if it was performed by an adult cast, and it wouldn't have the same power.
Yeah, I agree, Ruari. I think.
Yeah, I agree as well.
I think that if adults were performing this play, it would take away the message, and because it's about young people saying, you say, you tell us, you say, and so if adults were to say that, it would be like, but you're talking about yourselves. So, but yeah, if adults say it, it's almost as if it could be biased because they're talking about themselves, so they might want to bend the rules a little bit and say that they do all these great things and maybe take away the bad things that they do. And so young people are not afraid to speak their minds and say what they think that they're doing wrong and what they're doing right and what they appreciate them for and what they're influencing them as like bad or good things.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Do you agree with the methods of the play?
Yeah, I do think it's right, yeah. And it's the message it's the children's voices as well. And also, I think adults often don't include children's feelings, children's thoughts in what they do. And you might have a message in a script, and as you said, if adults were trying to get this message across, it just wouldn't make sense. And they would maybe make, I agree with Sarah in that she was saying that I think they maybe make excuses and change it in a way and potentially make it more positive than it is.
What did it mean to the play that there were people with different languages, like English and sign language?
I think it was very great. I was so happy to hear that we had 2 deaf people because of the diversity in the play, and especially allowing us to, get prepared for our future if we do become actors and actresses. Because in a play, you're not always going to have people that speak English. You might have people that can't see, or people that can't speak, or people that are deaf. And so being able to adjust to that at a young age is really good, because when you're an adult, you have that experience. So yeah.
So really we had, I think it was more powerful because we had the variety of languages within the performance, and really it showed different cultures. It showed, it has a real impact. And I think it showed personality, it showed feeling and expression. When you use sign language as well, that gave us an opportunity to show more expression and to show it in our own way.
And about that, can you describe, there was parts of the play where you were physically, where you were like running around and doing other things, not speaking. How did these parts happen? What role did they play? This contrast between the speaking and the physical movement?
Well, I think it was important, really, because it made. We were in different groups, and we had quite a mixture of ages. Some much older, some much younger, And it didn't really matter, and we wanted to show that it didn't matter. And it didn't matter what age you were, what culture you had, what language you spoke, whether you were deaf or hearing. We were all treated the same. It was about our personalities, and we all had the right to say something. And it meant we all had that opportunity to tell the adults, you know, that they were lying. So moving around allowed us to be in those mixture of groups and do that.
Oh yeah, I agree with George. I think that throughout the play we were mostly standing and, you know, standing our ground and telling them what we think without them telling back. They can't speak to us, they have no voice, they're sitting in the seats, they can't say anything. And so I think there was some times where we did do little movements, like when Loic kicked the chair when he was mad. And I think that was mainly to relieve the stress from the adults and how the tension that builds up when we always tell them about how the negative things and, you know, what they're doing wrong and what they should improve. And so having those slight movements in the play allowed them to, you know, calm down and take a break, and having those positives as well helped them out.
Sometimes the movements were part of a result of what we were saying. So there's a point in the play where the whole cast joins in saying, you tell us no, or in BSL, you tell us no. And the cast gets very wound up and almost we start to shout it at the audience and then move off. And then there's a point where people throw chairs or just storm back to sitting where they were. And it's like our words are a result of us getting angry or agitated. I don't really know, sort of just getting angry at why are the adults doing this and saying this. And the movements are basically a result of what we're saying to the audience.
Can you say a few words about relation to the audience? How was it to say these things to adults watching you?
For me, standing there and relating to an audience like that, for example, I had to stand up and I think it was really important to stand there using sign language and get this message across that we want you to understand us. We want to have this opportunity for you to listen to what we have to say, because this is going to go on for our whole life. And for us to stand here, for us to stand on that stage and have this opportunity to get this message over to adults, it was so important to have that focus, to really connect with the audience so that they couldn't be distracted, so that they couldn't look away, they couldn't ignore what we were saying. They had to think about it. There was that pressure there that they had. We didn't want them to go home and forget about it. We wanted them to really, continue to think about what we were saying. And I think that's what this gave us the opportunity to do.
Yeah, I agree. They pay for the tickets, so you can't just leave. And so, I think that, in general, the first performance we had was very stressful when you were behind those doors, thinking because, in a normal life, the parents always have the power, they tell you what to do, they tell you what they want. And so having that time, that power of going out on stage and telling them what you want to say, building what built up inside of you, and you just want to scream at them. And so we had our moments in the play where we were screaming, like when we were saying, tell us no. And I think once we started getting to it, once we started more performances and everything, it was more like, I'm proud I'm doing this because I'm able to send a message to the adults that I may not have been able to do at home because I've been too scared to,
Were you scared sometimes in the play?
Yeah, sometimes, especially on the first night, it's always quite stressful. And sometimes when you are saying things to the audience for the first time, and every time you do it, you're always a bit like, oh, how are they going to take this? What are they going to think if I say this to them? Oh, my mum's in the audience. Oh, I don't want to swear in front of my mum. But I think that being able to give your message and say a message is always a good thing.
Are adults generally a bit scary?
I don't think so, no. But I think maybe when you're giving that message that they say, that they're saying, that you're saying, oh, this is what's wrong with you. We sometimes, we do like you a lot, but you do these like annoying things that we don't like, and sometimes they're just quite bad, and sometimes you're quite bad. But no, I don't generally find adults scary. I think, you know, we're all people.
Would you like there to be more platforms for children and young people to express themselves, and how?
Yes, I would think it would be really great if, you know, at the moment, at a young age, you don't really get to go to America and have all those movies and films and theatres. And so I think if you had a platform where young people could audition and get into plays, because nowadays you can't really, you know, you're quite young, you don't really go to agencies and you don't really have that stuff at the moment. And so being able to have South Bank and Forced Entertainment doing that play is really helpful for us and for, you know, the people that auditioned is still, because, you know, they learned something from it, and when they have another audition they know what to do and what they might have done wrong, and so it really helps them for their future and their career.
So I think it's really good for young people to have these opportunities. For example, maybe a young person might be sat at home with nothing to do. I would, you know, encourage people to go out and have a look at what there is out of their home and out of school. You know, look at the different opportunities and look at what experiences might be out there. Because, you know, young people who want to become filmmakers maybe, or who want to become actors, they want to be involved in this industry, it's really great if they could find, you know, some kind of opportunity like we had with Forced Entertainment.
I was going to say, it also makes it realistic. You get to see if you know, when you're in the play, you get to see what it will be like if you do become an actress. How, the time you have to take, the amount of like time you have to take out of your life to, you know, put the effort into it and learn the lines in your spare time, and being able to learn all the movements and knowing where to go, where to sit, where to stand. And so it gives us a sense of realism of what it'll be like when we're older.
I also think you could take Greta Thunberg as an example of young people saying their message, and just as an example of a young woman protesting against something that she didn't like and thought that no one else was going to solve, and it started by her, just one person sitting outside her local government, and now there's thousands of people protesting everywhere around the world for a change. Started by one young person's message, so there should be more opportunities for it, but sometimes you just have to get out and do it.
So you think that is a way of establishing a platform for yourself as a young person? To simply trust yourself to go out and do it?
I think that's a good way of going through the world and doing the world. You've just got to trust yourself and get out and do what you want to do and what you have a dream in, and just do it and go for it. And yeah, obviously create as many opportunities for yourself as you can.
Yeah, I think if, you know, people who have been really famous, if they didn't have the nerves to speak their mind and, you know, send the message that they wanted to send, then a lot of the stuff that happens in this world now wouldn't have happened. For example, the climate change and how it would start with one person. And so if, for example, one person didn't want to start theatre, then theatre would never be a thing now. And so it's really important for someone to, you know, be able to stand up and say, this is what I think, and I want people to know, even if they don't change their minds, I want people to know my message and understand me and understand that maybe I could change the world in the future.
Yeah, and young people want to change the world. Because, you know, each generation that comes along, we want to make a difference more than the generation before us. And we want to be able to, you know, work hard and be, you know, not just struggle, but really find the different opportunities in order to achieve to achieve your goals. And I think that's what we should all be striving for.
We're nearing the end, but would you like to add something?
I would like to say a huge thank you to everyone who set up the auditions and picked us, and it's really been a great time meeting new people, meeting Hester, meeting Tim, learning a side that I probably wouldn't have met if they didn't have auditions, because it's quite hard at a young age to find auditions for a lot of plays, and so just want to say thank you.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to Forced Entertainment who set up this process and allowed young people to meet loads of other young people and perform and portray this message, and it's been a really great experience and I've really enjoyed it, and thank you for interviewing us about it.
I want to say thank you as well to Forced Entertainment, of course. Forced Entertainment, yeah. I think also for ensuring that, deaf people were able to come into the audition, and for, allowing us to have this opportunity, and allowing myself as a performer to have this opportunity. It's been amazing to see, experience this kind of performance, to see, I think it's been made a real impact on how not only I've done, but also you've been able to, it wasn't about me being deaf or disabled, it was about my personality and about me, forming personality within this. So I want to say a really great thank you for giving me an opportunity as a performer to have that opportunity.
Thanks a lot to you too.
You're welcome.
Cool. Is that it?
Yeah. Awesome.